is a very important discussion. That gentleman on the right-hand side of the back there asked a very important question. It's very important that every one of you try and get involved and get the Revelation of Hope series translated into your local languages. It's very important. We're busy doing that in Africa at the moment. The biggest spoken language in Africa is Swahili. That's Kenya, that's Tanzania, that's Congo. They all speak, that's millions and millions of people. They speak one language. So it's very, very important that you get the Revelation of Hope translated into many indigenous languages as possible. And content for radio stations. As soon as you are able to broadcast with or without a license, depending on your government regulations, contact AWR and they will help you and finance you for the first 5 years, as you saw there, and take this further. It's very important. We cannot finish this work sitting back and waiting for the ministers to do it. We as the laity, people who are not the ministers, must get out and finish the work. That is what Ellen White says very, very clearly. Right, then are you aware of the God pods? Have you ever explained God pods to them? Okay, AWR is making a small transistor radio. It looks like a transistor radio. It does not have a transistor. It doesn't receive airwaves. But the content, it can store 1,000 hours of sermons. 1,000 hours. And you can do that in your local, there it is. You can do that in your local languages. Go, come and explain. Come and explain, please. This is a stunning piece of equipment. You guys need to fund this and order this as much as you can. And you can put content here in your own languages as much as you want to. It takes 1,000 hours.
This is what we call, in Asia we call make a voice, God pod or whatever. Is a MP3 that can record it. I don't know how many hours now. It's about 400 hours or more. Yeah, that you can put like sermon, health program, children program, or whatever program that we can give it to the people somewhere, even in a city, where people can use this, but they cannot record anything. Only we can do it. All right, we use this, and they don't have to worry about battery because there is no. They cannot put the battery here. Everything is by solar cell. Yeah. Or they can recharge it by using just put it out there in the sun. AWR provided for free for any conference that needed. Last 2 months we sent it to Thailand 250 pieces of this for free. And it's available for any new outreach area. You use this as to bridges to people. Just knock to their door and introduce yourself that I have some message for you about the good health. How can you have a good health? By listening to this. And people can use this when they go to their farm. Just put it out there and play it on. I don't know what maybe I didn't charge this. So this God pod is available for free from AWR.
And how would you get the other languages on there? Who would do that?
AWR will provide us the content. Your own program, your own language, your own music, everything by yourself, and send it to us. We will record everything for you. And we will send it back to you, and you can use that as your tools.
And if you've got a good voice, volunteer to be a recorder.
Right.
In your own language, no problem. We need people that can record on these God pods. And this is an opportunity where I saw all those languages that we are not addressing. You can now in a very cheap, ineffective, immediate way get into those rural areas with the local languages with this God pod. This is fantastic.
In SSD, I think Myanmar is the most country that get this. I don't know how many times have we sent to your union, because they are working hard. They are hardworking people. and they always produce program. And when they are, when it all available, they send it to us. We record it and we send it back to Myanmar, free.
Then I want to share with you what happened with my daughter. I've got 3 daughters. My twins are 19 and my baby is 17. Now last year, we had 1,000 outreach evangelistic campaigns simultaneously per day in Lusaka, the capital of Zambia, and 80 in Livingstone per day. We had 1,080 evangelistic campaigns per day. Dwayne McKee said my daughter must go. She was 16 years of age at that point. 16 years of age, she took her laptop. All those people were then given, sermons were loaded onto their laptops. They were then trained how to use these sermons. And the next night they started with their first one of a series of 18 sermons over a period of 2 weeks. Because Sabbaths, there's more than one sermon. My daughter, that was 16 years of age, was responsible for the baptism of 29 people.
Wow.
16 years of age. She's got no theological knowledge. She's a 3rd generation Adventist, but she knows Adventism, but she hasn't got theological knowledge at 16. She knows the basics, and there she stood, and she was dynamic, and she gave these sermons, and Dwayne McKee and Ken Sharp were over the moon with Dorette, with my youngest daughter. I'm sharing this with you, because if you've got kids, sons or daughters, and my daughter was on the point of leaving the church, and Dwayne McKee, when he saw this, he said, Gideon, send Dorette. AWR will pay. We'll send it to Lusaka. And that saved my daughter. Oh. If you have a child, a boy or a girl, that is not quite sure of Adventism, please send them to Papua New Guinea the middle of this year. Is that right? If we're having a massive...
Next year.
Next year. We're having a massive outreach program there. Dwayne McKee and them are there now preparing the ground for the next effort. And then if you want to go personally, all that you need is 2 weeks and a laptop and a willingness to preach. So please, if you know friends, we need people to go there by the hundreds to go and preach at Papua New Guinea next year, the middle of next year. The middle of this year is India. India is the middle of this year. So if you want to go to India, please make yourself available. Let us know, and we will use you. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share with you a bit of a background of how the cell phone evangelism developed. How the cell phone evangelism developed to where we are now. Then tomorrow morning, we're going to get into the training. In other words, the nuts and bolts of how to physically do it, and we'll give you material to take from there. Okay, shall we just have a word of prayer, please? Just sit where you are. Heavenly Father, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you for preparing us for this, these series today and tomorrow. Thank you that we are willing and disciples that are willing to move with this gospel by using new technology. We ask this humbly in your name. Amen. Okay. About 6 years ago, I was invited to preach in northern Namibia. And because the major language there is Afrikaans, I was told to bring Afrikaans notes with. And when I got there, with Neville, who lives in northern Namibia, we discovered that there were some visitors there from the Caprivi and Angola that do not understand a word of Afrikaans. And I said to Neville, I will talk in Afrikaans and you will translate into English, which is what happened. And when, on the way back, something happened in the motor car, the 80 kilometers that we drove back to Neville's home, and we decided to start a group to actually assist Afrikaans-speaking Adventists to be a group together. And we started the group that same Sabbath afternoon, and we were 3 people. Neville and his wife and myself, 3 people. Now, I was 2,000 kilometers away in Johannesburg. I live in Johannesburg, and Neville's in northern Namibia, 2,000 kilometers away. So how do we talk to each other? So we decided to look at the applications, and we decided to choose WhatsApp. as an application 6 years ago. And every morning at 5 o'clock, we did three things. We prayed together as a group of 3 people, and we said, Lord, send us people to this Afrikaans group. Number 2, we made ourselves available every morning at 5 o'clock. And number 3, we asked the Lord to lead us. We are available, please lead us the way that we must go forward. And the end result is 4.5 years later, we started a church, official church, by the conference president of 72 members. Absolutely unbelievable. This is in an area where northern Namibia, the distances are very, very far apart. So where Neville lives in the northern part, the people that joined us were 500 kilometers away. Other people were 300 kilometers away. Other people were 800 kilometers away. I was 2,000 kilometers away. Namibia is a very big country and the distances are very, very far. So the only way that we could get group members and to participate and feel part of the group is to have a prayer group together as a group every morning at 5 o'clock. And we prayed for those 3 things, as I just said. Then a wonderful thing happened. We decided that we're going to try an evangelistic campaign in the Afrikaans, local Afrikaans language. And we translated the sermons from Mark Finley into Afrikaans, and we sent out those studies. But what we did is we went to our group and we said, listen, we want you to go to friends who are non-Adventists and approach them and ask them, do they understand the book of Revelation? Now, when you ask of South Africa, do you understand the book of Revelation? 99% of people do not understand the book of Revelation, and they will say no. When they say no, then they might react and say, listen, but we are not supposed to understand the book of Revelation. It's a closed book. Because of the Calvinism in Southern Africa, they believe it's a closed book. We are not supposed to understand. So we taught our group of 72 people in the group. When people say this is a closed group, you say, no, it's not. It cannot be a closed group. Number one, we just taught them a little bit of basics. We said, listen, the Bible would have been incomplete if it was not for the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation summarizes the whole gospel. All 65 books ahead of the 66th book focuses into the book of Revelation. Chapter 1 verse 1 says this is a revelation of Jesus Christ. He did not say, I've come to hide myself. He came to reveal himself. Right? So how can it be a closed book? Chapter 1 verse 3 says the person who reads this and understands this and keeps this, he will be blessed. The last chapter, chapter 22 verse 7 says exactly the same. So it starts and ends with the same thing. The book of Revelation refers 400 times to the Old Testament, 100 times to the New Testament. Remember, it was the last book written, as we all know. So it was in 96 after Christ. So all the other books that were started in 53, 54 by Paul, Thessalonians and Mark, etc., that were written first, those were all already there. So he referred 100 times to them. So it's a very important book. And then we also taught them to use local situations. In other words, if we have a whole host of farm murders in Southern Africa at the moment. The farming community are very vulnerable and very far apart from their neighbors, so that the gangsters can go in and murder them and nobody will even know that they're being murdered. So we've got a big problem in Southern Africa at the moment with this. So we say to the people, why is this happening? Why are we having these farm murders, etc.? The book of Revelation has the answers. So what we ask for is willing participants. We never want people just to give us names and telephone numbers of people. They need to be willing participants. And then we gave them 3 days and said, go onto your cell phone, look who are non-Adventists, and contact them and say, do you understand the book of Revelation? No, I don't. I'm aware of a very easy to understand series of studies. Are you interested? And most people said yes. And after 3 days, we had a group of 1,300 people in 5.5 groups on WhatsApp. Because the WhatsApp takes 256 members. So I think we had 5.5 groups for the 1,300 people. What we did not know was as we were sending out the studies, all of us have the tendency, when you receive a good study, or a good text, or a good poem, or a nice hymn, or whatever, you tend to share it with your friends, isn't that so? To one or two or three, your wife or your kids or whatever. We found that some people would share those studies with nobody. We found one woman that shared that with 22 people every week that she received the study. She would share that with 22 people. And we found that the average was, of the 1,300, 57%, that means about 800 people, would send it on to 4 other people. In other words, the 800 became 3,200 plus the 1,300. So that's 4,100 people that received these studies. And we were busy with these studies, and Dwayne McKee, the boss, my boss at AWR, walks into Livingston, a hotel, and he sees a woman sitting behind the counter with a cigarette, with a Bible open, listening to a cell phone in another language he doesn't understand. And Dwayne and Kathy, his wife, looked at this and said, wonder what this lady is listening to. She's full of tattoos, smoking, and listening to this Bible study on a cell phone. And the next morning, actually it's amazing how the Lord works, because where they always used to live in Livingston, the Royal Livingston and all the other hotels, they couldn't find place. They could only find place at this Falcon Lodge, which is about 20 kilometers into the bush on very rough roads. So they landed very late with the aeroplane that afternoon, and this Toyota came to pick them up, this Toyota truck came to pick them up, and they're sitting on the back on this rough road, and they were saying to the Lord, there's lions and elephants here, there's this terrible rough road. Lord, why did you do this to us? Why are we going to some lodge way out in the bush that we don't know? And when they saw this woman sitting and smoking and listening to the Bible studies, I thought, maybe this is the Lord. And the next morning after breakfast, they went to pay their account, and this lady was there again, sitting and listening to the cell phone with the Bible open, sitting and smoking a cigarette and a cup of coffee in their hand. And Dwayne eventually said, listen, what are you listening to? She says, no, my cousin lives in the Cape, and he receives from some chap called Neville these Afrikaans studies on the book of Revelation, and he is my cousin. He sends them to me once a week, and I just love this stuff. Would you like to receive these messages as well? She says to Dwayne. And I tell you, Dwayne almost fell over when he realized that this woman in the middle of the bush is receiving studies on the book of Revelation. He asked, who's Neville? What's his telephone number? And he found Neville. He says, Neville, I'm Dwayne McKee, president of AWR. I'm going to phone you in 3 days' time when I'm back in Washington. Goodbye. And that's exactly what happened. 3 days later, he phones, and we were in a conference called me, Neville, and Dwayne. And he says, who are you guys? What is your background? Now, Neville and I did theology together, so we explained to him. And how do you do this? How did Antoinette in that lodge in the middle of the bush receive these voice notes? How did you do this? How did you do this? And he was so thrilled. He says to us, man, what equipment do you use? How do you record this? Have you got decent equipment? And we didn't have decent equipment. And he gave us his credit card number over the telephone. Go and buy 2 Apple laptops and decent microphones and things and stands and things that you need to record properly. And how do you spend somebody else's money? It's very difficult to spend somebody else's money. So we were very, very careful. We got a cheap quote for cheap computers, etc., and cheap microphones. And when we emailed him back and said, this is what it's going to cost, he says, Gideon, that's rubbish. Get decent stuff. And technically, we spent $5,000 on 2 sets for 2 little studios, just little studios in our house that we're using to record. It's amazing how the Lord actually works. Absolutely amazing how the Lord works. And then 3 months after that, Dwayne phoned Neville. He says, Neville, come to Washington. We want to meet you. Come and explain to us what we do. He flew over there 2 years ago, the 19th of September, got there, and the whole day, him and Kent Sharp grilled him and spoke to him, and how do you do this, etc., etc. And they were so impressed that he decided to get the staff members, some of the staff members down to the auditorium, and they gave Neville an opportunity to explain to the staff of the GC at Silver Springs how him and Gideon are doing the cell phone evangelism. And they were very, very impressed, and they arranged a breakfast meeting the next morning at the Hilton Hotel, which is just like a kilometer away. And 5 of the guys came there, Dwayne, Kent, etc. And within a minute, Neville realized that they'd gone back to the office that night and they'd brainstormed, how do we roll out digital evangelism to every congregation around the world as quickly as possible? And they were asking Neville, if we do this, will it work? And Neville says, yes, it will work because of these two reasons. If we do that, will it work? Neville said, it won't work because of this and that and that. It will not work, etc., etc. So we've got dynamic leadership. How many of you have met Dwayne McKee? He's a dynamic person. He's the right man at the right moment in the right job. You know, he's an evangelist in body and spirit. He's an absolute evangelist. And what I like about Dwayne is if I phone him and I say, I need this and I need that, within 2 seconds, it's yes or no. Not, I've got to take it to this committee first and that first. None of that. Do you understand? You get the same? No committees. He decides there and then. Remember, this is a ministry of GC. It's an independent ministry belonging to GC. So it doesn't have all these committees, etc. Do you understand? And Dwayne McKee is President Wilson's right-hand man with TMI. So TMI and AWR is the same organization as far as I'm concerned. We've got dynamic leadership there that is really, really keen to get cell phone evangelism rolled out as soon as possible to every church as we can, to the best of our ability. So there's an urgency at Washington headquarters to roll this out in your division, in your unions, in your conference as soon as possible. I would like to share a couple of facts with you regarding social media. Facebook now has approximately 2.3 billion users. 2.3 billion users. Messenger about 1.3 billion. WeChat about 1.1 billion. QQ about 900 million. Skype 350 million. Snapchat 300 million. Now, 10 years ago, Jan Koen lost his job at Yahoo. And he went back home and him and a friend started writing an application, some software, called WhatsApp. And they launched it 4 months later. It was an immediate success. The main reason why it was a success is the high cost of making calls on cell phones. Now you make a call with a little bit of data anywhere in the world and it costs you technically nothing, just a little bit of data. That was the main reason for the success. And within 4 years, the people joining WhatsApp per day, not per week or per year, per day, 560,000 people per day join WhatsApp. It's absolutely unbelievable. I don't know what the figure is today. Maybe it's a bit less, maybe it's a bit more, but a year ago it was 560,000 people. Then Facebook decided to buy WhatsApp. You know what they paid for WhatsApp? $19 billion US. 19 billion US dollars. Jan Koen was unemployed 4 years before. I would love to be unemployed like that. Yeah. You can buy a few things with 19 billion. Wow, that is absolutely amazing. But the point is this. Today there are active users of WhatsApp every day. People that use WhatsApp every single day. Between 1.5 and 1.8 billion people per day use WhatsApp. It's the biggest success application ever that's ever seen this globe. Presently, we have about 2.2 billion users, but active 1.5 to 1.8 per day. An average of 60 billion messages are sent through WhatsApp per day. 60 billion. That's mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. Now, I haven't looked at your area of the world, but in South Africa, if you take the number of cell phones and the number of people that have WhatsApp, 70% of our population that has cell phones are on WhatsApp. 70.
The same here.
The same here.
Same here.
70%.
Are WhatsApp users,
Yep.
but in the Philippines, it's mostly Facebook. But they're beginning to use WhatsApp also.
Okay, in the States, when Neville and I went to train Mark Finley's church and 4 other churches, we also trained the ministers, all the ministers in Arizona conference. The Americans did not know of WhatsApp. They did not understand WhatsApp because their telephone costs are cheap. That's not expensive. So it's not attractive for them. But when we started training the churches, and people are inviting non-Adventists to participate in the Revelation of Hope series, they ask them to download WhatsApp, and then they are on the group with WhatsApp. And now the people love WhatsApp in America. They love WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is growing now quite considerably in the States. So in that area, that what is it, Philippines? Philippines, where the messenger is more popular, we need an application that can take a voice note. Do you understand? So it must be able to take a voice note, and nothing works better than WhatsApp. Nothing works better than WhatsApp. WhatsApp is actually, they're a very progressive company. Facebook is a very, very clever company. And they bought this application for various reasons. They're now finalizing, in South Africa, they're testing WhatsApp Business at the moment. WhatsApp Business has been on the go now for about a year. Yes, it's exactly a year, April last year. And we have 5 million businesses on WhatsApp. So the way that those businesses now do business with their customers or their suppliers is changing. It's revolutionizing business. It'll be business. WhatsApp Business Enterprise is made for big companies where you can talk to all your staff members just by doing one voice note or sending one resume or whatever, or a message to somebody. It's absolutely unbelievable. Or a new price list or a new product launch. It's really changing the way that business is going to happen. At the moment, it's only in Android in South Africa. But they're busy finalizing with the iOS system, and it'll be launched worldwide shortly. Now, as Facebook changed the social media platform for the whole world, so WhatsApp has changed the way that we send messages, that we make calls, that we electronically speak to each other, etc., etc. It's really revolutionized the way we do things. So, these days, my friend, on a day like today when it's not church, your Bible is next to your bed on your pedestal. But where's your cell phone? Your cell phone's on you. If you want to reach somebody, there's no more effective way than through their cell phone. Nobody misses an SMS. If they don't see it now, they'll see it in an hour's time, or they'll see it tonight. But nobody will miss that SMS or that message. If you make a call to somebody and they're not available now, they will get a message that Gideon phoned you, and they will phone me back. It's a wonderful facility. So the most effective way that you can today reach the unreachable is through the cell phone. There isn't a better way. And I'm talking to communication people here, so you all have insight with that. And you know, these days, I said the content is king. But there's another king, and that is cell phone. The cell phone is king. The cell phone makes it possible to look at content. Right? The way that I do my banking, I haven't been in my bank for 2 years. I do everything on my tablet or on my cell phone with the bank. I pay my people's wages with my cell phone. The internet. If I want to phone, if I want to chat to somebody, if I need a GPS to get to a certain place, I just type it in and there it goes. It takes me there. Messages, free, worldwide telephone calls. Everything is done on the cell phone. So the cell phone is king. Absolute king. And 99% of people are never without their cell phones. I've broken out in a cold sweat when for 5 minutes I haven't known where my phone is, because everything is on my phone. If I lose my phone, I'm in trouble. I'm in big trouble. So, in this modern time, in this digital age, if you want to reach someone, there's no more effective way than reaching him on his cell phone. Now, I told you about the 1,300 group that we sent one study a week to, and they would send it on to other people, and it resulted in about 4,100 people roughly that received this study every week. Now those people, that was limited because it is a small language in the world, Afrikaans. But we had Afrikaners from mostly Namibia and South Africa. But we had Afrikaners from Japan, a few. Korea, quite a few, about a dozen or so. A lot of Afrikaners from New Zealand, Australia, one or two from South America, a lot from the States, a lot from Europe, but mostly South Africa and Namibia. And most of these people were professional people, doctors, lawyers, professors, ministers, priests from other churches, etc., etc. But most of these people were ex-Adventists. They were ex-Adventists. We baptized 350 people 6 months later.
Wow.
What did that cost us? $100 of data? Where my father would have a massive evangelistic campaign that would cost $40,000 with 7 ministers' salaries and his own salary and all the advertising in the newspapers, etc. And they'd baptize 50, 60, 70 people after 6 months. After 6 months, we baptized 350 people. When that happened, we all of a sudden realized, wow, what have we got here? Neville and I did not sit and plan this. We just decided one day when I was preaching there, we drove back in the motor car, let's start a group for the Afrikaners, for the Afrikaans-speaking community. Now, the Afrikaans-speaking community is mostly black in Namibia, mostly black, colored, and a little bit of white. So it's not racial, it's the language. We wanted to start something for the language that was busy dying in that country from a religious point of view. And that is how the Lord led us to where we are today. Really amazing. Now, time is very limited. Very, very limited. We need to get this ball rolling as fast as we possibly can. And GC, our head office in Silver Springs, knows this, and there's an urgency with them to really get this going as quickly as we possibly can. Now, I don't know if you guys know who Robert Mugabe was, the president of Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
But he was a real thief. I mean, he really stamped on his citizens. He felt nothing for them. He enriched himself and his wife dramatically, became billionaires, etc., at the cost of their country. And to protect himself, he was the first president in the world that made it what do you call it? You would break the law if you said anything on social media against Robert Mugabe. It was a law. And now all countries are looking at it. Merkel in Germany is looking at it. Theresa May in England is looking at it. I can show you an example where this is now Afrikaans language. This is 27th of November. This is a year and a half ago. The governing body was the ministry was looking at cyber security. That's the SWAPO. That's their Congress that they have for their ruling party. So even small countries are looking at it. So our opportunity to use social media for evangelistic purposes is limited. We already know that countries like Nepal, on the 18th of August last year, there it is, the 18th of August last year, it was made into law. It's now a criminal offense to evangelize in Nepal. Criminal offense. We've got to use other methods now. Now it becomes becoming more difficult. We've now got to use the health message and do other things, but we can't use religion anymore. So friends, we've got to jump as soon as we possibly can and use the small window of opportunity. We don't know if it's going to be 1 year in this country or 5 years in that country. We don't know. But the devil is not going to sit still while we are busy reaching millions every week. He's not going to sit still and smile while we're busy converting people. Do you understand? He's going to do something about this. And his way of doing this is to get people to regulate social media. They're going to get countries to regulate social media so that I cannot say anything against somebody else. They can take me to court. But we know that the reason behind that is Satan wants to close that vehicle. We cannot use it for evangelism purposes. Right.
We were privileged to meet the most wonderful woman. Her name is Anne Marie. This young lady is doing cell phone evangelism, but what's amazing is that she's blind. And her story begins about 16 years ago. She actually had kidney failure, and both of her kidneys were shutting down, and her sister donated a kidney to her. Then she was on dialysis, and then later her leg was amputated. And And the thing was is that she never really gave up her joy, I guess. You could put it that way. I mean, yes, she was sad because she didn't want to be in a wheelchair. But you know what? A few months ago, her friend forwarded a Bible prophecy series to her phone, and she got it, and she started listening to the Bible truths. She was so enthralled with what she was learning that she started forwarding the messages to 8 people speaking Afrikaans, because that's one of the main languages in South Africa, and to English-speaking friends. And she is doing a wonderful, wonderful work in cell phone evangelism now. And let's show you how she goes about doing this. It's incredible.
Okay, because I'm a blind person, I'm using a smartphone that talks to me, so I can do everything on my phone, like this.
Rose 19 to 20. Your voice message, duration 2 minutes 53 seconds. The 25th voice message, duration 2 minutes 54 seconds. The 24th of October 2017 at 6:17 p.m. Current, skip forward, delete, forward. Frequently contacted, honor. Yoko. Double honor. Double tap to select, selected, honor. Forward, button.
How amazing is Anne-Marie? What an example to each of us. You know, if you too want to do cell phone evangelism, go to awr.org and click on our tutorials, and we'll show you how, simply, you can be a cell phone evangelist. Thank you for all of your prayers and support. This has been an AWR 360 moment.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
She was 18 years of age when she developed sugar diabetes. And a month later, her left leg was amputated below the knee. And a month later, she was 100% blind. 100% blind. This is now 16 years later. And I got a telephone call one day, and it was Anne-Marie. I never knew who she was. You never know where your Bible studies land up to. And she was receiving this stuff from another friend that I was sending to. And she would send this on to the Afrikaans, to 8 of her friends, and to the English friends. And then she explained to me that she was blind. And then I realized, wow, we got a very, very special lady here. We were intrigued. How does she do this? And then when the AWR team were here, I took them out to this lady. We drove 200 kilometers to get to her, and we spoke to her, and you saw that result. Now, if she can do that, anybody can do it. If she can do that, anybody can do it. It's absolutely unbelievable. Then my brother, Marius, was an elder for one of the biggest Afrikaans churches in Pretoria 2 years ago for 33 years. Now 35 years. 2 years ago for 33 years. And he came to me in September, and he said to me, September 2017, Gideon, I'm going to resign as elder. I said, why do you want to resign? Because he's a good elder. He said to me, Gideon, when I look at the congregation, there's not one baptism because of me being an elder. I'm going to resign. I said, don't resign. Look at the CD. Listen to the CD. I gave him a CD of my first recordings of Revelation of Hope. I said, listen to that and phone me tomorrow. He phoned me the next day. He says, Gideon, this is fantastic. What must I do with this? I said, listen, go onto your cell phone. Find 10 people who are non-Adventists. Approach them personally, not over the telephone. Speak to them face to face and say, do you understand the book of Revelation? And they will say no. Then you say, I'm aware of a very easy to understand series of studies. It will really empower you. You will really understand the Bible after this, because the book of Revelation is a summary of the whole gospel in one book. You will really understand this. And 9 of those 10 people said yes. And the 27th of September 2017, he started with 9 people with one small group. 5 weeks later, I interviewed him for AWR. I'm going to play it to you now. He had 5 groups with 192 people. Because you see, what happens is your best advert is your participant. When he starts discovering Daniel 2 and all these truths, he talks to his brothers and sisters, his colleagues at work, and they also want to participate. But now they've already had 3 studies. You can't put them into that same. You've got to start a new group. So that's why Marius had 5 groups with 192 people. Marius's first baptism was his own son, Elmer, who was a drug addict for 15 years. Oh. It was his first baptism, the 17th of March last year. He subsequently baptized, well, he's not ordained. When I say baptized, he's responsible for the baptism. Dozens of people. Dozens of people. He's now got something like 40 groups with 6,000 people on the groups. Unbelievable, very dedicated. Marius has got a small little business, elder, etc. He was going to be made head elder this year, and he refused. He said, no, I want to carry on with my ministry. I will be elder, but don't make me head elder. Don't make me head elder. I need to get out. Can you help me? I just want to play, Joshua, I want to play this voice note, please. Is that if a blind lady can receive and send these messages with no theological knowledge, if Marius, who is not a theologian, can receive these messages and baptize dozens every year, you can do this also. And your church, where you are a member, you can go back to your church and organize them to also do this. It's very, very, very easy. It's a very easy thing to do. Now, what we do, can you just help me? Yes, no, I'm fine. Yeah, can you see that? What we're doing here is we don't ask everybody in a church congregation to become digital evangelists. We organize the congregation to become a digital evangelism team, right? So they become a digital evangelism team with a digital evangelism team leader. That team leader, once we train the congregation, they will choose who the team is, or the team volunteer themselves, who they want to be on the team, and then the team chooses the team leader. So that leader is chosen by the team. Then we have a prayer group leader, and this tomorrow I will use this to explain everyone's purpose very, very in detail. We'll have a participant coordinator, we'll have a social media advertising marketing person. For that congregation, we might have 4 or 5 or 6 or 3 digital evangelists, right? And we teach them they don't work on their cell phones. They work on their laptops or they work on their desktops. I will teach you that tomorrow morning. And then you have a technical supporter, and the questions have to be handled. The rest is not necessary at this point. But that group and that church could move into digitally recording everything. And you see this camera on this stand here, it's called a Mevo. Where's that Mevo? You're going to, yeah. We've got one like that. And you record everything that's done in that church, and in real time it is put onto YouTube or onto Facebook, and people can actually participate in the Sabbath School pre-program, in the Sabbath School lesson discussion, in the divine service, etc. You either put it on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitter. Then in future, you can start a women and a men's group. You can start a youth group. You can start a Sabbath School discussion group. To me, the most important activity on a Sabbath is a Sabbath School lesson discussion. The most important to me. I've got a passion for the Sabbath School lesson. And we are the only church that does it. We are unique because every 8 years, more or less, we actually study the whole Bible systematically. It's wonderful. So the first thing that we did after we started this group, we were about 20 members a month later. And we started a Sabbath School lesson discussion group. And we would discuss the Sabbath School lesson. And that group grew to 70, 80 people. We started the church with 72 members, because some of those members are outside of Namibia. We now have 150 people on that Sabbath School lesson discussion group that are all outside of Namibia. The other 72 of that 150 are church members. So that's become a very, very popular group discussion. Very, very popular. That really attracts people that are interested in Bible study. And that's the sort of person you want to become involved in the revelation of hope. So that's what we do. We start a digital evangelism team, and I will explain the nitty-gritty and the nuts and bolts of that tomorrow morning. Then, the other thing I would like to share with you, what is this thing off? It was off, sorry. Right, the work of God in this earth can never be finished until the men and women comprising our church membership, that's the ordinary people without theological degrees, people who are not ministers, must rally to the work and unite their efforts with those of ministers and church officers. This work will never, this is a famous quote, very famous quote, we all know it, we've all seen it before. It's very important that when you go back to your churches, when you go back to your conferences and your unions, speak to those people, because it's the church membership that needs to be motivated They need to be mobilized. They need to get going with a simple system. Now, the church membership feel uncomfortable to give Bible studies because they feel they don't have enough knowledge. But if we give them a CD with 29 studies on it, then they, with a smile, become very effective digital evangelists because they just send it out on their computers. It's so simple. It's so simple to mobilize them once you give them the pre-recorded. So this is very important to get the church members involved in digital evangelism. Then another quote that says the same thing. Not upon the ordained minister only rests, so not only on the minister rests the responsibility of going forth to fulfill his commission. That's Matthew 28. It is a fatal mistake to suppose that the work of soul saving depends alone upon the ordained ministry. It's not the minister's work. I don't know about your area, but in the SID, in the Southern Indian Ocean Division, where I'm a member, our church ministers are so overloaded with work. They've got 4, 5, 6, 7 congregations each. How does he evangelize? He cannot evangelize. He cannot. He sees one. Sometimes they see, is it the same in your union?
Yes.
The same
in
here?
the south, at least.
Yeah. So the minister is not able to finish the work as an evangelist. He's been trained to be an evangelist, but he can't. He can't do it. So in other words, the ordinary people, God will send forth into his vineyard many who have not been dedicated to the ministry. They've got no theological training by the laying on of hands. They have no theological training. God will use them to finish the work. And if you give them the sermons pre-recorded in one of your languages and in English, they can go ahead and send this out and actually be more effective than a trained, ordained minister. My brother is not an ordained minister, and he's baptizing more than the ministers in South Africa. Yes. So that's the power that you actually possess. It's absolutely unbelievable. So Ellen White says it's a fatal mistake that evangelism rests solely on the minister's shoulders. And this is why whenever I go to a church to train them, I say the minister must not get involved in this. This must be a congregational project. This must not be a minister's project. I'm one of the few guys that believe that the minister should never be the chairman of the church board. Because when he is transferred, the things collapse because they were on his shoulders. But when he's a member of the church board and the head elder is the chairman of the church board, whenever that pastor is moved on, nothing collapses because nothing was on his shoulders. It wasn't his personal project. So we suggest that the cell phone evangelism team is a congregational project and not the minister's project. So she says it's a fatal mistake that evangelism rests solely on the minister's shoulders. It will be the normal member that's going to finish the work, she's predicting. And it rests upon your and my shoulders to empower the membership in our churches to go out and use this most effective way possible. Look at this one. We are nearing the close of this earth's history. I believe that with 100% of my heart. We have before us a great work of closing the work of giving the last warning message to the sinful world. This is Revelation 14. There are men who will be taken from the plow. That's ordinary workers from the vineyard, ordinary people. They have no theological degree, from various branches of work and sent forth by the Lord to give this message to the world. This is the way to do it. There is no better way. So you and I, as church leaders, are compelled to empower the laity to get out there, give them an easy system that they will enjoy. And you know, we have found that all the big mouths in the church have positions in the church. They have been equipped by the Holy Spirit. They've got the personality, and they move out and they are deacons and deaconesses, and they are elders, and they lead out with the Sabbath school lesson and things like that. And we find that the people that embrace digital evangelism are those people in the back benches that never stand in the front, because all of a sudden they've got something that they can do without any theological knowledge. And we just train them how to do the rest, and they become very, very active. We have changed congregations. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you've got the same problem here, but in our country we had some people, some Adventists from Australia. He went to one of the small country areas. There were about 50 members in this church, in this congregation. Small country area in the middle of the Karoo, in the desert. And they believed that the Holy Spirit was not part of the Trinity. I don't like the word Trinity. That to me is Catholic. I like to use the word Godhead. Right? So never use the word Trinity. We don't believe in the Trinity. We believe in the Godhead. Right? So they did not believe that the Holy Spirit was part of the Godhead. And they believed in this flat earth nonsense. I mean, how can the earth be flat? I mean, my goodness. Just look at the shadow on the moon when there's an eclipse. It's round, it's not flat. So it's so simple. In any case, the end result was that half the people of the congregation went away with the head elder, and they were then worshipping in his home every Sabbath. And the other half of the congregation were about 25 more or less who were worshipping in the church. Now, of those 25, only 7 were active members. The others were old people. They were not active in the church whatsoever. Only 7 were active. So the best went with the head elder and are worshipping in his home. So Neville and I got a telephone call. We flew down to that town and we took the Sabbath and trained them in digital evangelism. Within 3 months, they had 45 people interested in Adventism, right? That were busy attending the church. And actually, the biggest favor that happened to them was that that group left the church and they were actually motivated to move out and start evangelizing. So it doesn't matter. And those 7 people were willing, but they had no theological knowledge. They wanted to save their church from closing down. And now they're sitting with a congregation bigger than what it was before. Bigger than what it was before. There's many examples like that. Now, you and I have been commissioned by Matthew 28 verses 19 and 20 to make disciples and to teach people. The same commission is in, John 20 verse 21, Luke 16 verses 15 and 16, etc., etc. Mark 15 verse 16 and 16. Luke 24 verses 46, 47, 48, 49 says exactly the same thing. So we are commissioned to move out and to spread the gospel. You are franchised to do this. You have a mandate to go out. You are privileged, and you must do this. God says in John 20 verse 21, you must be my witness. You must be my witness. So you are entrusted with this truth. You are equipped with it. You are commissioned to react. You've got to be active in service. You've got to teach the laity to evangelize. So as I said this morning, we as a church worldwide are at a turning point. Are we going to embrace digital evangelism, or are we going to turn our backs to it? We are inviting you as leaders in the church, as communication and other leaders in this church, to take hands with AWR and to help us so that we can train your division in how to do it. Now, the way that we're going to do it is as follows. We can't finish this work by doing one church at a time, as I said earlier. We've got to go into a conference and train and invite all the conference youth and senior youth and the leaders of those churches to come to a central big hall, and there one Sabbath we train them. Then we take people there that commit themselves to digital evangelism. It might be 200-300 like happened now in Kenya. And out of the 200-300, we invited 10 people that were computer experts. They were all standing in a massive circle right around the church. As we dedicated, we had a prayer of dedication for them for digital evangelism. And we said, we want 10 of you that are computer experts that are prepared to spend 3 Sabbaths away from your church. And you as a core team, I will train you, give you all my material. And you go every Sabbath for 3 Sabbaths. One Sabbath you at your own church, the other 3 Sabbaths you out as a team. And you go and you train churches to become digital evangelism teams. And those 10 people step forward. Boom. We actually said to 2 of them, go back. We need 10 only. That is the way that we need to do it. So I am here so that we can open the doors with this division. So that Neville and I, will be mostly Neville, I think. Neville and I can come here and train every conference. I don't know, how many conferences have you got? in this division? How many conferences have you got?
I'm not
Roughly.
around 100.
Yeah, I was going to say 100. That's normal for a division. So it'll take us 2 years. Do you understand, to do that? So what we need to do is to move even faster. If we can train that team of 10, right, to train their churches, that team could break into 2 and they carry on training the churches. The other team goes to other conferences and does exactly what we did with them initially. Train, get all the youth together, all the senior youth together, all the leaders of the churches together to one big hall and train them and get them motivated to participate and start a team of 10 people that are trained in that conference. We've got to think out of the box. We've got to get this ball rolling as soon as we possibly can. And so that is the way that we're operating. And we've just started this in Kenya, where I went and trained, and as I said, there were 200-300 people that dedicated their lives to become digital evangelists. They were from all churches. They reckon there's about 500 churches and home groups in Kenya, in Nairobi and Greater Nairobi, that came and visited with us for those 2 days. It was the whole of the Sabbath and the whole of the Sunday. And now we've got this core team, and I then work with the team leader only. I have nothing to do with the team. I work with the team leader, and the first thing I do is I teach them to do private devotions. This church will never save one person. What saves you is your relationship with Jesus Christ. And I was in my 3rd year theology when I realized that I'm still the same naughty Gideon that came here 3 years ago. And I've never heard a lecture on how to build a relationship with Jesus Christ. There was no class in my seminary with that. And then I started with a passion to develop a system that worked for me. And I built it down into 2 sermons that I share then with the team to teach them how to do private devotions so that you can build a relationship with Jesus. Remember John 17 verse 3, you're saved because you know Jesus Christ. Acts 4 verse 12, exactly the same thing. There are many texts. You're saved because you have a relationship with Jesus Christ. You can pay triple tithe. The devil will laugh at it. It means nothing. God doesn't need money. You can go to church every Sabbath and sit in the pew. As long as you're an inactive member, he's quite happy. Go to church, doesn't matter. But as soon as you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, you're going to have problems in your life. Because now you're on the right road for the first time. So I teach that team how to build a relationship with Jesus Christ. Because once you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, the passion for souls overwhelms you.
Amen.
It overwhelms you. Then you become a very effective team that goes out and trains other churches. So that's my strategy. I train them to become Christ disciples of Christ, and then I teach them just a few basics, and then they're on their own. And it's working very well. I think they're doing their first church Sabbath the 4th of May. Sabbath the 4th of May. They're doing their first one. So that is the strategy of how we're going to move forward. Now, up till now, Neville and I have trained the pastors in Arizona in America. We've trained the 5 congregations in the States, England, Japan, India, the Philippines. Neville was there last year. Armenia, Zambia, Ukraine, South Korea, South Africa, Namibia. All the ministers in Namibia we did. We found that the ministers, when we trained the ministers, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Those ministers did nothing. The same in Arizona, did nothing. Nothing happened. So when I went to Tanzania in January this year, I said, listen, we're going to have a major outreach in Arusha last month in March and April, at the beginning of April. We need you ministers to start, and there were 140 ministers. And 71 of them dedicated themselves, and we made them promise they're going to start with digital evangelism within 1 week. And we empowered them, we gave them everything to start within 1 week. And we haven't got the final baptismal figures, but it's a couple of thousand that is baptized because of that now. The same thing we can do in this country. So this is why I don't like to make this a minister project. It's got to be a congregation project. The ministers are too busy. I realize it. I can see it. I understand it. I respect it. I tell you what's the best job in the world is to be a minister. There's nothing better. But they are so overloaded with 5, 6 or 10 churches. It's very hard to be a minister. It's the hardest job in the world. Very difficult to be a minister. Then in October last year, when I went to annual council at Battle Creek, etc., we trained Mark Finley's church. And Mark Finley's words were, "This is the greatest, most effective evangelism tool ever. Ever." And he was so encouraged with what happened, what he saw happen to his congregation that day, that he phoned Ted Wilson. He said, "Listen, I want my church to be a digital evangelism system, a CDE. And we said yes, because he's got everything going for it. Now, I want to play you something else. Sorry, I can't play with it. I'll try and do it tomorrow. I've got a video on where Ted Wilson says the way forward is self-evangelism, with his own mouth. His words were, "This is the last frontier to cross. This is the best and the last tool to use. Let's finish this work." That's his words. That's his word. You'll see it tomorrow if I can get that going. And then at the GAIN conference, you might remember that I was not there, Neville was there. And Neville was called up and was awarded with the most effective evangelism tool for the world church the previous 12 months. They give that award out to 2 people every year. We are not award people. We were just encouraged by this, that the church is recognizing this as the most effective way to reach out to the world church the previous 12 months. So this is where we are at the moment. What does our time look like? How much time have I got left? Because I can, you want me to go another half an hour? 20 minutes? Okay. Can you help me? Remember that now some of you have seen this already, but most of you have not. AWR is a dynamic ministry. I have no idea what the exact figure is, but we have over 1,000 radio stations worldwide. It's one of the biggest radio stations in the world. I saw figures the other day compared to BBC. BBC has more listeners, but we've got more radio stations. So the potential that we have is absolutely unbelievable. And I love our logo of the 3 angels' messages, Revelation 14, and how we cover the whole globe with, as we say there, no walls, no borders, no limits. Wherever the air goes, airways goes free of charge. It's really amazing, and how we are changing this ministry from broadcast to baptism. Now, I just want to quickly show you something. When I finished high school, I did my articles as a chartered accountant, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. So I'm very much a figures person, and I'm going to play with figures, but I don't like playing like this, because this is what I call thumbology. Sucking figures out of your thumb doesn't work properly. But if you take 150,000 churches, there's about 83,000 churches, 70,000 home groups, about 150,000 churches worldwide. And every church has 4 cell phone groups. They will reach, then we have 4 times that, gives you 600 cell phone groups. And everyone has a small amount of 200 people on their group. We will reach 120 million persons. If 3% become Adventists, we can add that to the 21 million that we are at the moment. And that's after 4 months. If you then take that, those people are on fire now, for Christ's sake. They're on fire. So divided by 2, half of them participate. And then we say that plus what we had just now, that every church has 200 groups, plus the 600,000. Then we're going to reach 480 million people. 3% become Adventists. So many we've reached after 8 months. Then the same thing happens again. After 12 months, we've now reached 58,000 people. Then after 16 months, we would have reached the whole world. Now that's thumbology. You don't play with figures like that. It's just a way to prove that theoretically we can finish the work in a year and a half. But let's be conservative. Let's double that, 3 years. Double it, 6 years. Double it, 12 years. Double it, 24 years. We're now being very conservative. Am I right? We can finish this work. I'm 70 years of age. We can finish this work in my lifetime. I can see it in my lifetime. I get cold, I get goose flesh when I say it standing here. I'd love to witness it. Love to see it happening. Now, We've got to move fast. I said earlier that in Nepal, as an example, the doors are closed for us, etc., etc. I just want to get you to a certain point. Right. The digital era. What does the word digital mean? Technically, it means everything happens fast. I remember in the old days of the Bible prophecy in South Africa. People want to hear, they want to do Bible study. They fill in a postcard. It takes 2 weeks to get to Cape Town, to the Voice of Prophecy offices in Cape Town. It lies on somebody's desk for a week. Then they send the study back. It takes 2 weeks to get back. It lies for a week in the post office. The whole process takes 6 weeks. Now with the CDEs, if somebody phones in, it takes 6 seconds for them to get the state of the dead onto their cell phone, instead of 6 weeks. So the digital age is technically where we do things immediately. My kids, if within 8 seconds they have not found it, they discard it and go to another website and look for something. 8 seconds, that's the time you've got. Now, what I like about true leadership is honesty. What I like about true leadership is when somebody says, listen, we are actually at wrong. We are not doing this right. We got a mistake here. We got to rectify this. We got a problem. That I respect. When a leader says, listen, I've made a fault. I've made a mistake. That I respect. Now listen to this. I did not write this. This comes from GC. Millions of people engage with AWR and the Adventist Church every week. We take days to reply and largely ignore these interactions. We believe this is unacceptable. This is a problem. That I respect. I mean, Adventist.org is a mess. It's an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. So they decided that they're going to start with a new objective with AWR to lead every digital relationship to baptism and to church planting. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that? The answer is CDEs. Right? The plan is to establish a center for digital evangelism in the Philippines that will serve in multiple languages to respond immediately to every digital interaction with the Adventist Church so as to build personal long-term relationships that lead to baptism. Isn't that wonderful? So this now the Philippines has become a call center. Now the initial idea was to have one person there from technically every country, or technically that represents all the major languages of the world. We're going to have 150 people there. It hasn't worked out that way. But technically we're moving in that direction now with 2 or 3 digital CDEs, Center for Digital Evangelism. And the point is, if somebody's father dies and he wants to know, is he busy burning in hell, or is he playing music in heaven? Where's my father? Where's my mother that's dead now? They can phone there and they will get answers. A digital relationship will be built with them. They will be prayed with. They'll make an appointment a week later to follow up with them, etc., etc. So the whole idea is a total of 10 CDEs for the whole world. Now, when Neville and I trained the ministers in Arizona, I went to San Francisco on business, and Neville went with Dwayne McKee and Kent Sharp and Sam Nevis, our GC person, and the 4 of them went to a very wealthy American, 92 years of age. And they spoke to this chap and said, listen, we are planning digital evangelism centers. And they explained to him what this digital evangelism center planning that they've got for the future for our church entails. And when he understood, now he's a computer guy. He's a multi-billionaire. He writes software for massive companies. In fact, the software that all the divisions, all 13 divisions and GC users, he gave free to the GC. Right, it hasn't gone to the conferences yet, but it comes from him. So he understands this technology. And when he saw this Center of Digital Evangelism, he called his wife, he said, bring the checkbook. He said, Neville, how much money do I need for the first one? And Neville said, we need $800,000 and he wrote out the check. And when he gave the check to Dwayne McKee, he says, you can only bank this on one condition. You must have 1 or 2 or 3 other checks that total that before you bank this check. And that happened the other day. We got somebody to give us another $800,000 and we could bank both of those checks. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely amazing. So we are moving forward now with the Center of Digital Evangelism. Initially we were talking 150. I don't know how many there are now in the Philippines, about 20 or 30, I'm not sure. But these kids, they are trained as digital evangelists. They give up a year of their life. They get no salary. They get a small stipend for shaving cream, things like that. They get food and they get lodging for free. And this is what we're going to do now. So what happens now, remember that we're talking broadcast to baptism, right? Broadcast to baptism. So how do we do that? Now somebody phones in, let's say they listen to AWR in one of the local languages. They're interested in what they hear. Now they go to Adventist.org. Adventist.org in the past was a mess, right? That's being revamped now to be totally different next year. Adventist.org will take them to the CDE. The CDE, that guy will pick up the phone and talk his language, start making friends with him, pray with him, give him the Bible study by answering his question, and start building a relationship. So there's engagement, then there's prayer, daily prayer, contact weekly to establish a relationship. That will lead to Bible study, to get them to say, right, I was very impressed with the state of the dead. I would love to actually study the whole book of Revelation. And now he becomes a participant in the Revelation of Hope studies. And they're using my English studies over there in the Philippines at the moment. And then eventually that guy will become an Adventist and join the local church. Very, very simple idea. CDEs is going to change this church completely because it's making us effective. We are technically losing 100,000 souls a year because of AWR. You asked the question earlier, how many people have we baptized in this area? Very good question. We need figures because if we have successful baptisms through AWR, it motivates us. It encourages us as Adventists. So it's very important for us to move out with that which works. So there's total integration busy happening at the moment. GC Communication Department, that's Sam Nevis. Total member involvement, voice of prophecy, everything will become digitalized. The Sabbath school lesson, personal ministries, digitalized. Adventist youth ministries, Adventist mission, divisions and conferences, all will be digitalized in the next 2 or 3 years. We're going to spend millions and millions on this. So in the past, or what's going to happen now in the future, is Adventist World Radio are causing 100,000 people to go to Adventist.org. Adventist.org will then send them to a CDE, right? And the CDE is the Bible correspondence schools. They've got access to that. All our institutions, all our services, all our departments, everything goes into this logo. And I don't know if you guys have been exposed to our promise, our church promise. Have you been exposed? Maybe I can share that with you tomorrow. Because that means everything. That means everything. But we did it wrong the last 5 years. We tried a logo and it backfired on us. It backfired on us. And we went to Google. You know, by the way, Adventist World Radio is so big that when we want something done, Google actually comes to us and says, listen, what can we do for you for free? And we say, we want this and that. We don't pay a cent for it because they respect Adventist World Radio so much. So can you see how this works? So all contacts will now be fed into the CDEs, and we will shortly have 10 of those around the world. That will then be like a call center that will cause people to be baptized, to join the church. So when Neville was invited the 19th of September 2017 to GC to explain what him and Gideon are busy doing with self-found evangelism, Dwayne McKee's words were, this has completed the circle. Self-found evangelism, his exact words were, this has connected the dots. We've always wondered, how are we going to finish the work? How are we going to finish the work? We thought just radio, because radio is free, no walls, no borders, no limits. But this is going to finish the work. That is Dwayne McKee's words. Really encouraging it, really absolutely unbelievable. And I remember as a pastor's kid, I used to hear, now I come from I've got German blood in here. We're very methodical, very precise, very perfectionistic. I find you people are the same, by the way. You are very effective in what you do. And so I sit there listening to my dad as a kid, and he says, we've got to finish this work in a lifetime. And I can't understand in my logical brain how this work is possible. At the seminary, I could not see how we're going to finish this work. But the last year and a half, my eyes have opened. We are now, do you realize how privileged you and I are to be part of this generation that from the time that Christ walked on this earth is the first generation that really has the ability to finish this work? Because digitally, we are now, the whole world is connected. For the first time in this 6,000-year history, this whole world is connected digitally. So we are privileged to be part of this generation that can finish this work in our lifetimes. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely amazing. And we will help you in any application. If you prefer to use another application, we will help you. Talk to us. We're not just stuck to WhatsApp. WhatsApp is the best by far, but we will help you with whatever we can. That I've just shared with you. We are the first generation capable of reaching the world in mere months. So friends, our objective is whatever we do must lead from broadcast to baptism. The objective is to lead every single, not some, every single digital relationship must lead to baptism and church planting. Shall we stand for prayer? Can I ask you to close with prayer for us, please? I will appreciate it.